Hello everyone, I just realized that I do have some questions which I was not able to address during my last presentation. Many of you may know every Saturday from 11:30 until 12:30 PST I meet with parents and students to answer questions, and usually each one of my presentations has a specific topic. I do ask for questions before and after the presentation, and there are some questions that I didn't get a chance to answer, and one of them I wanted to address in particular because there seems to be some misconception about some of these topics, and this one in particular is about Harvard. I had a student who asked me, a senior friend of mine is a valedictorian and of her class, and she also has a nearly perfect SAT score. She applied to Harvard under early restrictive action, and yet somehow she got deferred. What could be the reason behind this? And is this just really based on luck? Now, I do want to understand from the student who asked this question, I'm not sure, how can your friend be a valedictorian and apply early restrictive action when you wouldn't know that you're a valedictorian yet at the time of applying early restrictive action? So I'm thinking there might be some assumption here that she is the valedictorian. She might have been, called in to speak ahead of time. They're monitoring the grades of senior year, but it is highly unlikely that she was selected before the end of the first semester. So I'm really curious how. But even if this is an assumption, even if, let's say she's highly accomplished and she has a nearly perfect SAT, which again, nearly perfect is not the exact number, but we will just go with this question now and, try to take a look and see. Let's just hypothetically say the student has a perfect SAT score, and let's just say that they're extremely accomplished, and also in addition to all that, academics, they are the valedictorian and they are deferred from early restrictive action from Harvard. And I will not discuss the early restrictive action and the reason why Harvard defers and how they really like to defer, but I will just address what is the main concern here. The main concern seems to be, how is it possible that someone with such high score, which probably took work and effort and time, etc., how is it possible that nearly perfect SAT score plus stellar academics got the person deferred? So I do want to say, first of all, and clear this, SATs, ACTs cannot help anyone get into Harvard. Not anymore. Okay, so this really is a very old story. Everyone knows what happened during COVID, test optional, all that good stuff. But this, the return on investment of the SAT, ACT, all those testings, that started to diminish much before COVID. So COVID really took care of a lot of that, and a lot more happened from then until now. So SATs and ACTs are no longer what gets you in. Okay, why is that? Somebody might say. There has been a lot of debate. Everyone has their own opinion about this. The bottom line is that there's a ceiling effect. What is that? The scores of 1540, I should say, all the way to 1600 really just puts you into the pile of students that screams, can do the work. These students are capable. They have the academic viability. They're hardworking. They can do the work. This is the group that the student is put into. Okay, so that is 85 to 95% of the applicants to Harvard. So we're looking at numbers such as anywhere between 30 to 35,000 students can do the work. But now only about 2,000 of these students, slightly above 2,000 of these students will be accepted, because the targeted class size is anywhere between 1,600 to, I would say, 1,800, 2,000. Okay, so this is what I would say about the SAT and ACT. That's where the famous SAT and ACT strength ends, right there. Okay, so the next thing would be valedictorian or any such titles, any such very strong accolades. And in particular, being a valedictorian, because this is a huge sort of badge of honor, right? We're not going to deny that. But what happens when this badge of honor tries to enter through the Harvard gates? The valedictorians, again, are kept at the gate. Why? Because I would say 4,200, and I might have these numbers a little bit mixed up by 100, 200 students, really. But right around there, valedictorians applied to Harvard last year. So at least half of these got rejected, and some got the polite deferral, polite, maybe, but no, later on. So the United States has about 42,000 high schools, maybe a little less than that, but about 42,000 high schools. So you can expect a lot more valedictorians to be turned out in the future. And it doesn't really mean that they will all get their acceptances at Harvard. Again, why? The ceiling effect. So you can see how these two amazing badges of honor that students usually wear very proudly are not going to get them through the gate. Okay. Does it mean that it's not helpful? No, that's not what it means. It just means that it's not enough. And remember, schools are looking for an opportunity to reject you because they have lots to pick from. So the next thing that we need to kind of look into here when we talk about this, to answer this question a little bit more in detail, these two badges of honor just say that the student can do the work, but they don't tell the entire story. And where is the entire story hidden? It is hidden in the rest of the application. So we don't know what the rest of the application for this particular student looked like. Just telling me about SATs and status, valedictorian status, is not helpful. I have seen students who have absolutely stellar academic achievements. They come in with 12 APs. The parents come to me at the end of the process and they ask me, can you please take a look at the application? Why did my child get rejected from every single school they applied to? What went wrong? And sometimes it is silly mistakes that are made on the application, boxes that should have not been, checked out, very poor personal statements, a variety of things. So, there's the balancing between what the student brings in terms of academic viability and how they represented themselves on the application. There's just too many red flags. The dots were not connecting. Something did not match. So also when we speak of such hypothetical situations, because I turned the student into a hypothetical case, saying, okay, they are valedictorian and they do have a perfect score. If you think of hypothetical scenarios where we have, let's say, a student with a nearly perfect SAT score and they're valedictorian and they have one AP class, okay? And this could happen because there's some schools that offer very little options of AP courses, and there's some schools that are actually now transitioning into eliminating AP classes altogether. So this is a possibility. And then we have a 1600 SAT score winner, again valedictorian, 10 AP courses, took 8 exams. Out of those, let's say all tests are 5s, okay, hypothetically, but why not? I know students like that, absolutely. And they have about 10 stellar extracurricular activities on the Common App. They're captain of a team, they're the president in 2 clubs, and whatnot. So to Harvard, these 2 cases look very, very similar. I should probably say almost the same, okay? What is that? What do they see? What do the admissions see when they compare these two students? To us, they sound very different. To them, they look almost the same. Both of them can do the work, you see. So they're both in the pile, the same pile where our friend valedictorian got landed with nearly perfect or perfect score. The pile of can do the work. So now when we look at the rest of the details that come with the application, we might see that the student that had, a high in 1500s SAT score, they were valedictorian, they only took one AP, let's say their school did not offer the AP, so they were very niche oriented, specifically looking for very targeted opportunities because they had a very specific niche interest. But their parents did not go to college. They do not speak English. The student had to work part-time to support the family, maybe just one parent. They probably come from a very, very small place, really somewhere where there's absolutely very remote, zero opportunities for any exposure, any clubs, no guidance, no social rubbing whatsoever. And then we have the other friend who is 1600, valedictorian, 10 AP classes, we already said 8 tests, all 5s, captain, president, all the good stuff. But both parents come from Ivy League schools. They live in the heart of Manhattan or in the Bay Area. They have, opportunities for professional certifications. They have degrees. They have social rubbing. They have connections. So all that, and we're not even looking at what the application looks like at this point. We're not even going to be able to take a peek and see what the essay looked like and the rest of the stuff in the application. We're just looking at the student and the family. Right there, anyone reading the application for the student who did not get the opportunities, they will mark that application as take a good look at this student again. Take a good look and review, because they don't want such cases where a student worked hard with very limited opportunities to get slipped through the cracks and to not get the attention and the study this particular student deserves. So they both can do the work. Where is the potential? Now, this is what they will look and decide. So all the additional information really, really matters here. And then assigning potential to your student based on the profiling and the application is where the difference will be between can do the work, can do the work. So flagging an application with a sign that says, look closely, take a log, study this case, that is where, those are the details that we will not have, the parents will not have, the student will not have when they just receive at the end the result, which is deferral or rejection. And they will be wondering, why? Because they're just looking at their own application. We're looking at Harvard, looking at 30, 40, 50, 60,000 applications. So, getting in on academics alone is very, very difficult. I would say highly unlikely. Alone on the academics. Okay. So, just asking it that way, asking the question that way. This is the best answer I can offer. Of course, looking at the application further, there could be the zillion little other things that may pop up. So these are the same scenarios, the same kids that will apply to Harvard. They'll apply to Stanford. They'll apply to Caltech. They'll apply to Yale. They'll apply to Princeton. Okay, these are smart students. They are top-notch number 1 in academics. But what is their zip code? Okay, and from there, what are the opportunities they enjoyed? And based upon that, we can look and then we can create a very different story, right? So there is a lot to be considered here when we look at the rejection. Harvard rejects anywhere from 10 to 35% of these can do the work students, of these top-notch #1 academic strength kind of students. So it is not a profile that is going to get you in, and it's not a profile alone that will fit in what the movers and shakers and makers and bakers of the new world is that Harvard is looking at. So just looking at that is not the right way to get. There's a lot more that comes in here. So leadership, having a hook, having something pointy, something lopsided in the profile, and sometimes there's so much push and stress to artificially create that, which definitely again is not going to stand out. So there's a lot more that goes into this, and I can definitely add some more links and statistics into this that supports my statement. But just to answer the question and not make this longer than 15 minutes answer, I wanted to point that out. These tests and academic viability alone will not be sufficient, because it equates, can do the work, but it is not enough at this point. Unfortunately, it is not enough. I'm sure that student was accepted in a good place, good school. I hope so. And there is a place for everyone. So good luck to all, and I'll be back with more answers. You can ask me questions, and I'm here to give you my answer. Goodbye.